Hello, oodles and fanoodles. We're back. The royal we are back for another review, another talkie. This time about a more traditional book, The Last Dragonlord. Not the best of covers, to be honest. A little bit old school, but you know what? Still kind of fun. What is The Last Dragonlord about, you ask? Well, I'm here to tell you, young ladies and gents. The Last Dragonlord is actually really interesting comparatively to most novels. Obviously, dragons play a central part in this novel, if you hadn't figured that out from the title. And in most novels, dragons tend to be either the big bad, you know, there's some great mystical creature that the enemy got a hold of, or they're attacking us. Every once in a while, they tend to be allies, but at that point, they tend to also be something far, far away. They're beyond us. They're ancient creatures that we just consult with, or someone happens to be like a dragon rider or some kind of bonded person with a dragon. It's few and far between where we deal with characters who, in fact, are dragons, essentially, in a certain way, which is another interesting aspect of this novel. So, in The Last Dragonlord, we are following Lyndon Rathen, and what's interesting in that aspect is actually his name as a true human, as they're called in this novel, is Lyndon, but as a Dragonlord, a were-dragon, he is actually also a dragon. He's bonded to the soul of a dragon, whose name is Rathen, or Rathan, depending on how you want to describe it. And so, in this series, human beings, when they're born, every once in a while, a dragon soul and a humans will bond together. That doesn't necessarily mean they will become dragon lords, because many people die of sickness and war and famine and all sorts of things before they actually go through their first change. And that first change is when, of course, the dragon soul is sort of awakened fully. And generally speaking, a dragon can fully take over the human at that point, but they usually choose to just allow the humans to be completely and utterly in control until the human decides that they want to pass on, to die, effectively. And then that dragon will fully take over and remain in dragon form and become a true dragon. So dragon lords are stronger, faster, regenerate more quickly, and of course have the ability to turn into a full-blown dragon when they wish to. There are risks and benefits to both being in dragon form or being in human form. This is not a simple series where it's just like, yeah, they just transform into a dragon and they're dominant and they can destroy everything. No, they can be hurt and killed relatively easily as a human, and as a dragon there are dangers as well, especially about losing control. Even though the dragons allow the human soul to have control most of the time when they are in dragon form, there is a small risk, especially in certain situations where the dragon will just be like, screw you, and just take full control. It's made out to be a very, very rare thing. The dragons are made out to be more sort of amused by their human counterparts, and they like sort of watching on as their humans live their life. And of course, to dragons, millennia doesn't really matter, so humans can live for very, very, very long time. Our main character, Lyndon, is 600 years old when this novel starts, and one of the central premises in the novel is that every Dragonlord has a soulmate, and every single Dragonlord that exists in this series has their soulmate, their soul twin. But Lyndon has been alone for 600 years. He's known as the Last Dragonlord. Generally, the true dragons sort of have a sense, a knowledge of when a new Dragonlord is made, and there has not been one in 600 years. And as the novel goes along, you kind of realize that, and the characters realize that there could be, God knows, hundreds of people who have just not awakened, and that's probably why there's not been a deluge of Dragonlords in so many centuries, because they think they've just been losing out on many of them, because their kind of philosophy is not to go around looking for Dragonlords, which seems really, really stupid. It would be, if you were a small enclave of you know, halflings, I would essentially be going around constantly trying to find more people who are Dragonlords, because the more of you there are, the better it is. You know, there's a certain strength in numbers, and this becomes even more important because in this series the Dragonlords are essentially the arbiters. They're the judges for the 5 kingdoms. So there are 5 kingdoms in this world, and people called upon the Dragonlords to come in and settle big disputes, even such as whether or not someone is going to take over as the king or queen or regent, which is the main story happening in this novel. The Queen of Kasori has passed on, and there's a succession issue. Her son is very, very young, and they need to choose a regent, and it could be either her, I believe it's her brother, or are they both brothers? It could be a brother and then a stepbrother. I'm mixing up the lay of the land. But those people are trying to both take control. And of course, we as the reader know something more is going on because we're seeing into the backstory. We're seeing what's happening with those characters, what they're thinking, what they're doing. We know who the villain is. And of course, the villain is more than some noble peacock. It is dark magery. Dark magery? Dark magic. Bad people. Bad people doing bad things. And there's a whole subplot. And what makes The Last Dragonlord really, really interesting, actually, is that yes, there is a clear villain in this novel, but even the villain in the novel is not some typical, you know, we just want to control and dominate the world. A lot of it is tied up in the dominance of the Last Dragonlord, in the dragons themselves, the were-dragons, and how they kind of control things, and how many true humans don't like this fact. And there are perhaps 3 to 4 main villains within the novel, and they all have a complexity to them. How the book ends, even with some of those villains, the choices they make at the end, put them in this gray zone that kind of shatters that very, very simplistic view of good and evil that we tend to get in a lot of fantasy novels. This is a slower novel. There's not a huge amount of action inside of it. A lot of it is really just seeing through Lyndon's eyes, and of course our other main character, Moriana. We do get quite a few different point of views in here, but we spend a lot more time between Lyndon and Moriana. Moriana is his love interest in the series, and of course possibly something more. And we are figuring out the world through their eyes, their experiences. There's a really interesting kind of backstory to Lyndon from when he was still human, and there was a lot of stuff, and that actually takes up a bit of time as we're kind of learning about where he comes from, which was an interesting way to do it. Also kind of strange because he's 600 years old, and so that part of his life is so long ago. I'm more curious about what happened in the 6 centuries since, and not much is really said or explained or done to describe this huge amount of time this character has been alive, and the way that the romance in it is set up is that we don't really actually get much time between the 2 characters sort of explaining themselves and who they are and where they come from, because it's just sort of bonded love and that's it, you know, which makes it's a very easy way for the author to get away with just having a love story inside of the novel without having to put too much effort into it. Not to say that their romance is easy or simple. There's a lot of complexity due to the events that are going on and the dangers and other factors that are happening in the novel. So overall, I mean, if you're looking for like a fun, really fast-paced action novel, this is not for you. If you're looking for a different view of dragons and dragonkind and a kind of exploration of kind of the in-between, the middle ground of good and evil, I would say there's a lot of politics in this novel, but not really. It's not a complex novel. But it manages to touch upon many points, and it's fun in its own way because of the simplicity of it in some ways, and how it takes a lot of complex issues and kind of breaks them down and lets us see a little bit more and deeply into them. So if you like dragons, if you like people with big swords and magic done in secret, sneaky ways, and a little bit of mystery and vagary that's kind of built into a series, you'll enjoy this. There is 2 novels in the series. I think The second book is called Dragon and Phoenix, or something in Phoenix. Dragon and Phoenix. So it is a duology, not a trilogy, which is rare actually. It's pretty darn rare for a series to only have 2 books. That almost never happens, but this one does. So let me know what you think down below. Like, comment, subscribe, check out the website details.ca, and of course, have a great day. Farewell.